Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be with Dean Fealk. Dean, thanks so much for joining us.
Seth, it's my pleasure. Great to be here.
All right, so let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get started?
You mean in life or
in this business?
Oh, in this business. Well, if you mean the legal business,
yes.
Let's see. I started my career actually in East Asia, so a little bit atypical, I think. But I had studied international affairs in grad school, really got interested in what was going on in East Asia and some of the kind of Asian tiger economic development pieces. So I think I was as much looking for an adventure as a career, if I'm really honest. But yeah, that's really where I started out. I had also moved earlier. I had moved from the Midwest, where I was born and raised, out to Northern California. So I love the region. You can sort of see a little bit of San Francisco and the Bay behind me, maybe. So after 4 years of practicing in Korea with some focus on China and Japan, I moved back to the Bay Area.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about what the business and the firm look like now.
Well, I mean, I'd like to tell you that I was so prescient, Seth, that I just knew that, through several cycles of kind of technology, waves and well-chronicled booms and busts, that I knew that, this really was going to be the forward-looking place and the epicenter of technology and innovation and all of that good stuff. The truth is, I just fell in love with the people and the can-do spirit and attitude out here in Northern California. But it's been absolutely incredible. And, we have now seen, really several generations of companies go from, tiny little startups to, leading iconic companies and do incredible things. So I've been fortunate to be part of that ecosystem. Part of what we do here at the firm really is help these companies think about how going into new markets or finding talent in new markets around the world, how they can do that with as little friction and as little challenge as possible and scale as quickly as possible. As you know, things move quickly. And so if you don't control your space, or you're not the dominant force in your space, or you don't look at new verticals, someone else will do that and very quickly eat your lunch. It's sounds very competitive, but it's really I think it's been a great space for us as a law firm that has been really for the last 5+ decades working with technology companies, not exclusively tech companies, but tech companies in particular here in Northern California, and then really leveraging the power that is our global platform.
Awesome. So who is an ideal client for you?
It's fun to work with small clients and see and really get to be kind of a more of a utility player, if you will, and kind of, you know, maybe you've seen a financing, you as an attorney have seen a financing or, you know, some kind of international expansion many, many times. So you can kind of be you know, a very kind of fulsome member of the team, the operating team. By the same token, I've always wanted to work with really big, sophisticated organizations. Even as a young, you know, as a young lawyer, I mentioned some of my time in Asia, working with companies like IBM and McDonald's and Pfizer really early in my career. I remember thinking, oh my God, to see some of these executives weigh, you know, weigh not just risk, not just business opportunities, but really like almost like a three-dimensional chessboard. Like I feel like I should get paid. I should be paying them for this kind of like an MBA in leadership and decision making. So I've always enjoyed working with larger companies. You know, if they happen to be publicly listed, there's a whole another layer of I would say complexity and sensitivity and things like that. But it's fun to have a mix, quite honestly. It really is.
And you lead the global equity practice at DLA Piper. So, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen companies making when it comes to, you know, expansion?
Yeah, I mean, I think trying to look at, you know, a global landscape, you know, companies, you can understand they often want to have a one size fits all approach that fits their values, fits their business model. But of course, legal rules vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. You know, business culture also varies. We are the only, you know, by way of example, we're, you know, our at-will, very flexible employment system here in the US isn't really replicated anywhere else. I would say, you know, yes, it makes sense to want to have as much uniformity in your approach to doing business, to hiring people, to how you deal with customers, and so on. But build in some room for flexibility, right? Because you want to succeed on the ground. You know, so again, it's a balance. You want to scale. You can't be bespoke with everything you do. That's not going to make sense, right? But I think within the contours of wanting to follow your core principles, your core values, and what you're doing, be flexible. And, you know, if you hire really good talent on the ground, like everything else in life, like listen to them. They have a lot to offer. That's the reason, you know, your most valuable assets as a company are probably your people. Yes, your intellectual property also, but, you know, there's a reason why you are hiring these really talented people, and you should be listening to them.
That makes a lot of sense. You've also served civic organizations and think tanks in leadership capacities, and you've advised 3 US presidential campaigns. Can you tell us a little more about that?
I'm glad at least one of those campaigns, Seth, was successful, because I was starting to think that maybe I wasn't that much help after all. But yeah, I've always wanted to. I had a vision, not a unique vision, but I had this kind of view of an old school, you know, big city lawyer that they knew people about town. Like if you had something you wanted to, you know, have addressed at City Hall, they knew who to call. Or if they, you know, if there's something happening in the community, they could be helpful. This kind of, again, I don't know if, you know, now the world has become so much more specialized, and I don't know if that, you know, that quite exists in the way it did a generation ago, but I've always wanted to be you know, there are really incredible things going on. A lot of great, you know, civic causes, a lot of problems that need to be addressed, certainly in the community. And I thought there's always room for at least one lawyer at the table, right? If nothing else, be the most interesting lawyer at the table. That's not always that hard, Seth. You know that. So I've had a lot of great, opportunities. Sometimes it just means it starts with, being willing to volunteer your time, or, just being somebody who will take the time to really learn the issues and try to pitch in. It's not to say, that you have to be a lawyer to be a contributor, but I think there are great opportunities for lawyers to get involved at really every level, and whether it's municipal or state, federal, international, you name it. So we've had the good fortune of contributing to a lot of great causes.
That is awesome. You're also a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. Tell us about the book.
Thank you for noticing, Seth. That's so good of you. Yeah, so it was somewhat of would I say passion project? It was a bit of a COVID project, really. My co-author, Carrie Rich, and I, Carrie's a East Coast-based, very terrific social entrepreneur. And we were talking about these incredible leaders, in our collective networks, and what they were doing to make a difference in their communities, and then scale beyond their communities, take best practices from, people all over the world. And we thought, it's not that different in a lot of ways from entrepreneurs we see in the private sector who are leveraging technologies, who are more aware of, again, global best practices. And these kind of, social entrepreneurs, in some cases are, filling a vacuum, if you will, where either, government or large organizations once really held full sway. And so we were talking about what we were calling kind of the new citizen states person who can, again, leverage technology, tackle big issues. So we had a lot of fun doing it. And then, we spent about a year promoting the book, and I got to do some fun stuff and, take it to the UN and take it to some legislatures in different parts of the world. So I had a great time. I mean, Seth, I'm not sure that, you get rich writing a business book. If it's one thing if it's Harry Potter, but it's a great opportunity to, I think, meet people in a different kind of frame. And we had a great time.
That's great. You've helped so many clients with their challenges. What's your biggest challenge now?
Well, I've got two young kids at home, and as I know you do, also a busy professional life, and a lot of things I want to do in the community. So, time is a very precious, limited, finite commodity. So it's hard to know where to spend time. You can't do it all. You have to say no as much as you say yes. And frankly, the lens changes. The challenges that I thought I would be working on 10 years ago are not the ones that I anticipated, A, and B, that I really wanted, that I necessarily would have wanted to. The challenges in some ways are greater, in my view, but you have to shift lenses. I mean, we have to kind of take the world as it is and not as we wish it was. And that holds true, of course, when we think about how we want to contribute to, successful outcomes.
Amen to that. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
I try to have a bright outlook. I love this city, San Francisco. I love meeting new people. Young people always bring, not always, but often bring fresh ideas. They bring energy, so it's great. We just welcomed this week a new cohort of first-year lawyers. And I just love, hearing about what's going on, what's new. People are, most of our problems are somehow self-inflicted and man-made, but the good news is they can be solved through man-made solutions, So it does start with a positive attitude, so I try to adopt that.
All right. Well, that makes sense. We know your time is incredibly valuable. We appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our folks watching or listening, where is the best place for them to go learn more about you?
Well, the good news for me is apparently I'm the only person on this green earth with the name Dean Fealk. So you can Google me, and there's some, well curated propaganda. You can find me on the Daily Piper website, LinkedIn. We've got an impacttheworldbook.com landing site and some things like that. Or just come see us in San Francisco.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, this has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Dean Fealk. Dean, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Seth. Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.